do today, as we said yesterday, is we'll be practicing, it's a practice session, so we'll be practicing writing we did yesterday, right? The writing for an academic discussion. Now, remember that you are part of a discussion of one kind of like a debate, and you're part of an online class as well. The professor raises a question, it's a debatable question. You get two options with two different perspectives around the topic. You also get to read two students' responses, right? That have entirely different opinions about the topic. And what you gotta do is you gotta write your own post where you express and you support and develop your opinion with reasons and some details, and where you also take part of the discussion, right? So you are showing that you understood what was mentioned before. So let's start. If you guys don't remember the template, I'm gonna show you the template so that you can maybe take a screenshot of it, or perhaps you can copy and paste it into a Word document, and you guys can edit the document there. Although, to be honest, a really good way of memorizing things is by like writing them yourself, right? So if you just complete or fill in the blanks, then you won't be memorizing the template. So copy the template on your own. I probably should have made a copy of that, but anyways, I am gonna run this. Okay, guys, so please take a screenshot of the template. You will be using it today's session. Guys have it? Everyone got it?
Yes.
Okay, thanks for the feedback. I'm sorry for my voice. I don't know if you find it weird. I was with a sore throat. Okay, we're gonna create a Word document or a Google Doc. And we're gonna be using, good thing is the ATS has given us some practice sets, not many, but some. We're gonna try to use those. Remember, it's always better to practice with official material, right? Because it's similar to what you'll see in the real test. Okay. Okay. So let's read it all together, and that way you will have a few more minutes to write the response, okay? Initially, it's okay if you give yourself more than 10 minutes. So remember, the instructions say your professor is teaching a class on political science. Write a post responding to the professor's question. In your response, you should express and support your opinion and make a contribution to the discussion. An effective response will contain at least 100 words. You will have 10 minutes to write it. So, Dr. Gupta, we're not going to read what he says, and we're going to go directly to the question. That says, if you were a policymaker, which issue would you argue is more important? education, or environmental protection? Why? Okay, the question is clear. You're a policymaker. Which issue would you prioritize, right? Which issue do you think is more important, basically? Education more important than environmental protection, or is environmental protection more important than education? What do you guys think about that? So I'm going to give you guys a moment to think. Don't read yet what the students said, because remember that can interfere in your ideas. So think about your opinion, think about your research. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a few seconds. Okay, guys, so hopefully you already have your opinions and your reasons. Help me by reading what Kelly said, what Kelly wrote here. Can anybody please read Kelly's post?
Can I do it?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Erika. Go ahead.
We all live on planet Earth, and it is the only planet we have. Therefore, we must take care of it. Clearly, protecting the environment should be the government's priority over education. I think the real question is which approach to protecting the environment, restricting pollution, regulating population, promoting clean energy, or something else should be the government's priority.
Now, can anybody else please read Andrew's post?
I can read, teacher. Teacher?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. I disagree with Kelly that the environment is more important than education. Education is actually the best way to protect the environment. Educated people can see how their decisions affect the world around them. Also, with better science and technology education, we can develop solutions to environmental problems. Therefore, I think the government should spend more money on education.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Victor. I'm sending you guys the link so that you have this material because you will have it on your TOEFL test. And starting now, I'm gonna give you guys 10 minutes for you to write your posts. Okay, so it's 8:17. Sorry, you guys have until 8:27 to finish your post. Okay, and then we'll copy everybody's post here, and we'll take a look at them. So please begin writing now. By the way, this is page 4. Okay, 4 out of 13. Also, if you guys have questions, don't hesitate to ask. Okay, I'm gonna be right here. So just turn your mics off and let me know. Guys, you have 1 more minute.
Andrea, did you say that we have to paste it to the chat box?
Yes, actually, that's what we're gonna do now.
Okay.
So I'm sending you guys a link. Here's a link to this document that I created. And since I'm giving you permission to edit, then you guys, what you have to do is please write down your name first, and then below copy and paste into this document what you wrote. Okay, your post. Okay, thank you so much. What are all the rest of you guys? Your time's up. Please copy and paste your responses here. Okay, we have Esteban, Sericas. What about the rest of you guys? Victor and Sebas, you guys are missing.
Yes, teacher, 1 minute, please. Teacher, sorry, where do I send my link?
please open the link that I sent through the Zoom chat and paste your response there. Okay, guys. So we know the question, is environment more important than education, or is education more important than environment? Which issue we say is more urgent, more important? Which issue would we prioritize if we're policymakers, right? We have to make decisions. Now, Kelly says that we should prioritize protecting the environment because it's the only planet we have. And well, then that's the only thing she says, right? That's the reason that it's the only planet we have. And then she raises the question of where should we start, right? So where should we start by restricting pollution, regulating population? Those are the details, right, that she gives. Now, Andrew says that education is more important than the environment because I think Andrew has like a point that one thing leads to the other, right? So education will eventually benefit the environment protection too, he says. Educated people can see how their decisions affect the world around them. And with this education that they receive in the future, with better science and technology, they could develop solutions to the problems we have, right, in terms of the environment. So let's now take a look at your responses. Okay, so let's start by reading Esteban's response. Okay. Esteban says, in this case, I'll take the environmental side. Great, I like it. It's a strong introduction. In this case, I'll take the environmental side. Remember, your first sentence has to be, is your introduction in a way, right? And you have to state your opinion in a way that it's easily understood. So in terms of content, everything's perfect in this first sentence. We can clearly see what Esteban's side is, right? The environmental side. Now, one thing we have to be careful with is punctuation. It has more to do with language use. So in terms of punctuation, in terms of language use, there's one rule in the English and also in the Spanish language that says you can never join two independent clauses with a comma. Does anybody know what an independent clause is?
The dependent clause you're asking? What?
An independent clause. Do you know
Okay.
what it is?
Yeah, so an independent clause is a clause that can stand for himself or it from itself. Like it doesn't need from another clause to be understood.
Exactly. So exactly what Esteban is saying. First thing, a clause is anything, it's a group of words that contains a subject and a verb at least, right? Subject and predicate. But let's say subject and verb. I think that's easier to understand. So a clause is a group of words that contain a subject and a verb. Now, when does this group of words that contain a subject and a verb become an independent clause? As Esteban was saying, when it contains or it is expressing a complete thought, a complete idea, when it doesn't need anything else to make sense, right? I always ask, like the example that I always use. So imagine if I'm speaking to you guys and suddenly I say, I don't know, suddenly I say, I like pizza, okay? That's everything I said, I like pizza. So you guys can totally understand what I said, right? Although maybe right now it's out of context, you can understand the idea. It's a complete thought. Once I finish that thought and I said, I like pizza, you're not expecting for me to say anything else. That's enough for you guys to understand what I'm trying to say. I like pizza, it's already good. But what happens if instead of saying I like pizza, I start the class and I say, hello guys, and then I say, when I was young, and then I stop there and I don't say anything else, right? You'll be like, you'll be expecting for me to continue with my idea, right? You'll be like, when you were young, what? You have to continue that idea for it to make sense. Because if I just stop there and I say when I was young and I don't say anything else, you'll be like, is she crazy or what? Like she has to continue with that idea, right? Somebody needs to complete the thought, or otherwise it's incomplete. So that is basically the difference between a dependent and an independent clause. You can know that both of them are clauses because both of them have their subjects and verbs, right? When I say I like pizza, what's the subject? When I say I like pizza, what is the subject of that sentence? Or the clause?
Pizza.
Are you sure? What am I talking about?
No. I.
Right? That is the subject. The subject is the thing, the person, the noun that we are talking about in the sentence. In my sentence, I'm not talking about pizza, I'm talking about what I like, right? So I'm talking about myself. I like pizza, I use the subject, and what's the verb?
Like.
Exactly. To make this even clearer, let's say a dependent clause is an incomplete idea, right? So for example, I can say when I was young. So when I said this, you guys are expecting me to continue, right? You want me to continue with the idea. When you were young, what happened when you were young? But an independent clause is one that contains a complete idea that doesn't need anything else, right? That can stand on its own, as Esteban said. So for example, if I say, I like pizza, then you already know that that's it, right? I don't need to say anything else for it to make sense. So that's the difference, okay? Now I was telling you this, both of them are clauses because both of them have subjects, I, and have their own verbs, was, and like, right? So when I join the two, what happens if I want to join the two ideas? Okay, let's change this to I liked, all right? So what happens if I want to join the two and I want to join an independent clause, well, a dependent plus an independent or vice versa, right? Dependent plus dependent. So if I want to join a dependent clause plus an independent clause, if they go in that order, I can use a comma. I have to use a comma actually. I could say when I was young, comma, I liked pizza, right? So I am joining a dependent clause plus an independent clause with a comma, right? That is the punctuation mark that I gotta use. Now, but what happens if I wanna join two independent clauses, right? I don't wanna join a dependent with an independent, but I wanna have two independent clauses, two complete ideas. In that case, sorry, the rule says that you should never use a comma to join them or to separate them, right? What happens? Can anybody tell me another example of an independent clause, please?
I play soccer.
Great. Let's make it into the past. That is gonna be another independent clause because it's a complete thought. It has its own subject, its own verb, and it's a complete idea. So if I want to join these two independent clauses, and this is something that we've all done. Honestly, I used to do this a lot, and I sometimes make the mistake of doing this even in Spanish. I think we all do it in some time, but it's incorrect. We cannot do this. Okay? I cannot say I like pizza, comma, I played soccer, because those two are complete ideas. They are independent clauses. So what do I use then to join them? If I cannot use a comma, what am I supposed to do? You have two options. You can either use a semicolon, which is punto y coma in Spanish, or if you want, you could use a period. Okay? Which one is better? It depends. If the two ideas are closely related, if they are good together, then you use a semicolon because that means like a shorter gap between the two, right? It's like a softer way of separating the ideas. But if they are not really too related, then I can use a period, right? For example, in this case, they are not related. Pizza and soccer, two different ideas. But so I would use a period. But if they were related, like I like pizza, I didn't like sushi. So if I have two ideas that are related, they are both like food, then maybe I would use a semicolon there because they are related, right? So I'm making the separation smaller. Is this okay? Do you guys see the point? Yes? Do you guys have questions about this? Okay, so honestly, this is something really important because when I actually started checking some of your essays, and not just you, this is the number one thing that I'm always like correcting and making those suggestions because it's not something commonly known. Now, there's one more thing that I gotta say, but what happens if I want to use a connector? What happens if I want to use a conjunction to join two independent clauses? Could I use a comma there? The answer is yes. So if you guys want to use a conjunction here to join these two independent clauses, what conjunction could you use? In this case, since this is contrast, maybe the right conjunction for you to use would be up, right? So if you guys will use that connector, that conjunction, now you can use a comma. So you could say, I like pizza, but I didn't like sushi. Why? Why can you use a comma now? Because this becomes a dependent clause. The moment that you add the connector, it becomes a dependent clause, and now you can add the comma. Okay, and this works especially with the fanboys, which are for, and, but, or, nor, and boy, yet, and so. Okay, so I am gonna suggest that you guys review this lesson: dependent, independent clauses, coordinating conjunctions, and their grammar rules. Okay, this will really help you in terms of punctuation. In this case, then, if we think about it, this is one independent clause, well, and this is another independent clause. So we are gonna use it here. Now, another thing, and this is also related to punctuation. First of all, I think that the transition word or the transition phrase you wanted to use was as a matter of fact, right? As a matter of fact, after every transition word or phrase, you always use the comma. As a matter of fact, Kelly has a point talking about how important the government incentive to move for cleaner solutions is. Right? This is what we call embedded questions. Okay, so another lesson that is really useful. Remember that this is a sentence that you're writing. So in a sentence, the subject always comes before the verb. If your verb is, then first you need the subject, then you need the verb. So Kelly has a point talking about how important the government incentive to move for cleaner solutions. Careful with your comparatives. Now, on the other hand, Andrew has a really strong point too, a really strong point of view about how educated people could make better decisions, even in the environmental issue, even in regards to the environmental issue. However, the decisions must be taken now. Great, the decisions must be made. right? The decisions must be made now. Semicolon. We cannot wait for the smart people of the future. There are always going to be smart people with or without good education, comma, but great, comma here. But the life of our planet is uncounted. That's the reason why I support environmental protection. Great. That's the reason why I would prioritize environmental protections, because the question isn't really, do you support environmental protections? Technically, you could support environmental protections, but even if you support environmental protections, you could believe that education is more important, right? Like Andrew's point was that. So careful with the content. Now, great post, Esteban. I think I wouldn't change anything. The only thing, maybe a few grammar points, especially punctuation. But in terms of content, everything is great because you were able to show that you understood both points, the one presented by Kelly. You summarized it perfectly fine. You also talked about Andrew's main point, and then you challenged that point, right? And you explained specifically why Andrew is not right, or why Andrew's reason is not valid. You challenged that point with your own original idea. You didn't just like repeat what they said already. You said that we don't have the time to wait for future generations to make the change. We have to start now. And you explained it well. Maybe I would like to see a little bit more, maybe some more details, because these are all general ideas, right? Maybe I'd add one or two details here and there, but your conclusion is also clear, your point of view is clear, and you really show that you understood both points well. And I personally like how you contrasted Andrew's reason, Andrew's point with your point, because that's really good. That shows that you can connect ideas well. So well done, Esteban. Do you guys have any questions so far? Okay. So, sorry. Let's see, Erica. Okay. So Erica says, I completely support Andrew's point, Andrew's opinion. Now, besides the fact that Kelly's suggestion makes sense, due to human beings need to learn to take care. I'm gonna make this in suggestion. No? Okay. So I completely support Andrew's opinion, besides the fact that Kelly's suggestions make sense, due to the fact that human beings need to learn to take care of the planet, okay? Because it's the place we live in, and of course, if the earth got destroyed, there would not be other room for people to stay. Okay, and this, don't forget your subject, could cause human extinction. Okay, let's stop there for a second. So great introduction, Erica. You clearly say what your point is. You can support Andrew's opinion, so you are in favor of prioritizing education over the environment. Now, I don't know if you use the template correctly, because remember that initially when you say besides the fact that, what you have to do is summarize student A's opinion. And student A is the one that you actually agree with. In this case, it would be Andrew, right? Here you summarize Kelly's point, and you said that Kelly's suggestion makes sense. And that can be a little bit confusing because I don't know what you actually think, because you said that you support Andrew's opinion, but then you proceeded to say that Kelly's suggestion makes sense, right? I don't know. It's a little bit confusing. Here you have to summarize Andrew's point. You have to say, besides the fact that educating people now will, in the long run, benefit the environment too, it is also widely known that, and there you have to add your own reason, right? Which I think is this. Education is an essential tool to reach successfully, to reach maybe goals or to successfully reach goals for developing countries. I don't know, something like that. I love your point, honestly, because I like the fact that you went away a little bit from environment. Nothing says that you have to focus on environment too much. If you're supporting education, okay, Andrew's reason was that education will also favor the environment. But you can have your own reason that's not related to the environment. And I think that's what you did, right? Great, I love that. You use technology, development, and so forth. So I like your idea of not just focusing on the environment, but also mentioning other benefits of prioritizing education, but careful in the way that you're doing, right? Because initially it's a little bit confusing what your actual opinion is. Careful with that part in the content. Is that clear? Do you have questions about what I said?
No, what I did was like, instead of apply the opinion of the student that I was supporting in the introduction, what I did was like, point out the second student, and on the other hand, like Andrew has a good there, it could be like Kelly's point, right?
Because you have
so I go
yeah. Point. Exactly.
Okay.
Good. Now that we're clear on that, one tip for language use: never ever have such long sentences. Think about it. This is only one sentence. It starts with capital letters into the period, and you have some connectors, right? You have the connector and you have the connector. Because. Then you have due to the fact that. Yeah, and I don't know if you have one more. I think you have another one, right? You have another and. So try not to do that. My suggestion is never have more than two connectors. I would already say that two is a little too much. So ideally just one. And if you want to add more things, you have to use a period. And instead of a connector or instead of a conjunction, because these are conjunctions, use a transition. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Let's start. Besides the fact that Kelly's suggestion makes sense due to the fact that human beings need to learn to take care of the planet, you already have two ideas joined with a connector or a conjunction. Now, instead of adding another conjunction, you're gonna add a period and add a transition. So you could say, this is, I don't know. This is as, it is the only planet, it's the planet we live on, right? Okay, maybe I think what we could do is say here, I think maybe this is unnecessary. We could say Kelly's suggestion makes sense. We're gonna say Kelly's suggestion that human beings need to learn to take care of the planet makes sense. So that way we just have one. Makes sense. And since we don't have any conjunctions now we can use because, right? So besides the fact that Kelly's suggestion that human beings need to learn to take care of the planet makes sense, because the place we live in, okay, ahora sí, period, and here you change this and for a transition, right? You could say plus, of course, if the earth got destroyed, there wouldn't be other room for people to stay. We don't have any connectors yet, so we can use this and, right? In our sentence, we don't have any connector, so this is going to be the only one. And this could cause, maybe, which could cause human extinction, right? So I know that like those were more than just one change, but the idea, the main tip that I'm giving you, don't have long sentences. You shouldn't be using more than one, maximum top 2 conjunctions in the same sentence. But if you want to add more ideas, you need to make a stop, place a period, and have a transition word. So instead of saying but, you will place a period, and then you will say however, and then comma, and your idea, right? Instead of saying and, you will say besides. Instead of saying so, you will say therefore. Right? So careful with that part of grammar. Then let's continue reading. It is widely known that education is an essential fact, an essential tool in order to reach out. In order to reach our goals for developing countries. Andrew has a good point when he mentioned that education could come with such amazing ideas or developing technology in order to take care of the environment. However, education and discipline, at least in my country, have never been given the importance that they deserve, right? But in my opinion, education is the key if governments want to solve every problem, including the environment. Okay, so Erica, I think it's similar. It's okay. I mean, you didn't make the mistake of confusing the parts where you had to include student A and student B's opinion. But in general, it's not bad. The important thing is that you have the ideas. It can be a little bit confusing to read in the beginning, but I think it's clearer when you get to the last part of your response. What I would suggest is review a couple of grammar lessons. One of them will be like memorizing a couple of transitions, punctuation. The other one would be active and passive voice, the use of such, and sentence structure.
Okay, thanks. No, but I think it's a good thing that I could fail here instead of the test. So right now I already aware of what things I have to reinforce. So thanks.
Yes, exactly. That's the mindset. So nobody's gonna have a perfect response, you know, nobody can have a perfect response in the first try. And this is your first try, guys, you know, like so sometimes, and I think it's good, like especially in terms of the template, for example, if there was something so that we can learn more, right? We haven't had the time to the responses, but maybe I can make an effort and send back to you guys with some suggestions like these ones here, so that everybody gets some feedback. Okay, this is kind of what you will have. The type of feedback that you have, obviously, it's going to be more elaborated, more in detail for the 2 other essays that you guys sent. But it is really important that you can also do this on your own. You know, that you write in 10 minutes and then you start to correct and see what you could have maybe done better, maybe your grammar mistakes. This is kind of what you guys have to do too. Okay, so what do you guys think? Do you have any questions about what we did today?
I don't have a question, but I want to add something. I can. Can I?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Well, like Erica was saying, like I was watching the clock and I see that I didn't have too much time, so I like trying to write everything too fast. And I think that these are a good example, because in the exam we are going to have the 10 minutes for the reading and the writing, right? In this case, we have the 10 minutes for the whole writing part. So I think I'm a little bit worried about my reading skills. So I think this was a good practice, at least for me.
Yeah, totally. So don't worry too much about time. I mean, if you guys were able to write at the end, because all of you guys finished, right? All of you finished. Honestly, that is a great way to start, because that means that you always improve in time management. If you practice, then I promise that you will always reduce like 5 minutes of what it took you initially, and even more, right? Depending on the way you practice and all that. Because honestly, this is a matter of getting used to the structure, getting used to what to say, getting used to summarizing. So it's just practice, the part of managing your time. So we're all good. We are all started in a good place, I think, because we all finished. So the more you practice, the better you get. And that's something that really applies here when managing your time. And it's same for the speaking sections, in the reading section, the writing section. In all of them, you have a timer. So it's just practice in terms of time. But also what you said, I think is true, right? Because not only is it important to practice, but also to know yourself and know what you're struggling with. So maybe you personally, I don't know, maybe you take more time to read. Maybe some of you guys take more time to write. Maybe some of you like are struggling with the comprehension and connecting the ideas. So whatever it is that you know that you're struggling with, that's where you wanna, that's what you wanna practice, right? Where you wanna go. So it's good. It's good to know yourself, to know your strengths and weaknesses, so you can work on them. Okay, guys. Does anybody else have anything to add? Anything else? Any question, maybe? Okay. Then please don't forget today's daily survey. It should be on your screens. And I'll be seeing you guys on Monday.
Thanks, Andrea. See
See
you
you
Sunday.
guys. Enjoy your weekend.